Hey everybody, I'm the Scientific Stoner, and today I'm going to be evaluating common cannabis consumption methods. So this isn't a tier list. I wanted to do something a little bit more objective than a tier list, though it's still pretty opinion based. But I just wanted to, you know, try and help people find what might be the best way for them if they're not as familiar with all the methods or all the common methods that I'm going to go over here. So let's just get right into it. We're going to start with bongs. So bongs are pretty cool, and we're assuming this is like a real bong. You know, this is like a 14-inch to 18-inch bong. If you're still rocking the 7-inch bong, like it's time to move up in the world. That thing's giving you harsh hits. It's time to move on up. But starting out with a bong, we're gonna give it an 8 for potency. All of these are out of 10, and the bong gets an 8 because, like I'm telling you, dude, if you take a gram of flower and you smoke it out of a bong, you're going to be a lot more high than if you take that gram and roll it into a joint. Like, you're just getting bigger hits with a bong, and as long as you're smoking on some good shit, these will get you sent quick. And discreetness. Now, discreetness, I'm referring to how bad the smell is, really. Like, the smell and the noise, and, like, how likely are you to be caught using this by somebody that you don't want to catch you with marijuana. So, I mean, like, it doesn't smell as bad as a joint, doesn't smell as bad as a blunt. Like, there's ways that you can sort of mitigate the smell. You can get a smoke buddy or like any really type of sploof. And if you really know what you're doing, I don't recommend that if this is your first time smoking a bong that you smoke it in a place where you really have to be discreet. But if you're like, if you get some practice with it, you know, you can kill the whole bowl in one hit and then exhale that bitch into a sploof and really not make all that much smell at all. But you still have the flower that's just out and about, and that's going to stink as long as you're smoking on some good stuff. That's going to stink up the room. So as long as you're skilled, a bong can be a 5 on in terms of discreetness. It doesn't stink that bad if you know what you're doing. And as for the price, bongs really, they're not that bad. Some of you might be like, hey, why does it get a 5? Like, glass is expensive. Well, like a decent bong that's like a decent quality, and like I said, 14 to 8 inch, you're looking at about $100 probably for a all right one. And I mean, that's all you need though. You don't, all you need is a bong and a lighter. You don't need anything else. You don't need hemp wick. Trust me. Like, it's fine if you want it. I personally don't like it. You don't need a grinder. You can just break it up with your fingers. I prefer to use a grinder, but you don't need that. And it really isn't that much of an investment. So I think it's pretty fair to put that middle of the road in terms of cost. Concealability, now that's where the bong really suffers because, like, you know, real bongs, these things are big. You can't just hide it in your fucking shoe or whatever. Like, you got to have a place to put this, and ideally you're just in a place where you don't really have to worry about concealing it. Like, you live on your own, or everybody, your roommates and shit, are 420 friendly. So really, they're difficult to conceal, and that's their main drawback. Convenience, I gave them a 5 because, like, they're pretty convenient. They're not the most convenient thing ever, and the main reason for that is cleaning it. And I don't know about you, but I'm an absolute fucking clean freak when it comes to my glass, and I will replace the bong water after like 3 or 4 bowls, and I also clean it after every single sesh, because I fucking hate the taste of just old fucking bong. It's the worst. I would rather not smoke than smoke off of a dirty bong. So for me, the convenience gets a little bit lower because it's a lot of maintenance. You got to clean it a lot. But like, really, if you just come home after a day of work and you're like, I want to take a fucking bong rip, you could be sent in like 5 minutes. You know, you just got to bust it out, fill it up with water, break down some weed, and you're off. So it's pretty convenient, but the cleanup and everything makes it lose some points, so it's not the most convenient. Efficiency, I gave it a 9 because, like, it's a hell of a lot more efficient than, you know, joints and blunts and shit that you roll up, because, like, your bowl is only smoking, like, it's only on fire when you're smoking it. Like, bowls will go out. I mean, unless it's a massive fucking bowl, but like normal sized bowls will go out if you don't kill it all in one hit. You'll burn a little bit. Like, the most efficient way is to kill the whole bowl in one hit. But it doesn't get a 10 for efficiency because, like, you can still pull shit through. If you like snap the bowl, you can pull some green through, and you don't want to do that. That's wasting a bit of weed. So it's not a 10, but like it's pretty good. And all in all, a bong gets 35 out of 60, which is not a terrible score. It's not a great score. I personally like bongs, but like I said, this isn't a tier list. You know, this is you get points for being well-rounded here, and a bong is great in certain areas and it suffers in others. So its score reflects that. And moving on, up next we've got joints. So yeah, you see we got Snoop Dogg on the right here with a J, kind of an ugly one to be honest, a real crinkly one that's kind of got a run going on top. But you know, it's Snoop Dogg. You know, we let him slide. Now some people are gonna be upset at me for this, but I gave joints a 4 in terms of potency. It's just they don't hit the same. And it's not just the efficiency standpoint. Like if you fucking roll up a gram into a joint and you smoke the whole thing, like yeah, you're gonna be high. Well, at least for me, like if you have a semi decent tolerance. If you're fucking new to smoking and you roll up a 1 gram joint, you're gonna be fucking blasted. But yeah, no, you'll get pretty high, but like you'll get so much more high if you take that gram and you pack it into like 3 or 4 bowls that you just kill in one hit. Like you will get fucking smashed off the bong, and the joint you'll just be chilling. So personally, it just doesn't hit for me nearly as much as like bongs. And discreetness, like joints fucking stink. They're not as bad as blunts, but they stink. Like it's burning constantly. The smoke is just going everywhere. You can't stop it. And if you light one of these up in your room, the entire house is gonna smell it. Even if you're blowing shit out the window, like it's not worth it, bro. You don't want to do that. These things stink. Now cost though. Now this is where the joints really come in, and this is like one of the reasons why I think they're so popular. Like all you need is a lighter, your weed, and some papers. Like you don't even need filter tips if you're a goblin, but I mean, like you're gonna want those. They're not expensive, and like you could get a pack of 50 papers, like good papers, not like some bullshit, like good papers for like $1.50. Like they're really, really cheap, and that's really what makes them so good, or one of the reasons that makes them so good. As is how concealable they are. Like as you can see, they got an 8 for concealability because I mean, like they're small. Like even if you're rolling fat, like 1/8 joints, like fatties, you can still put them in a little tube, and as long as there's a halfway decent tube, the smell isn't going to get out of the tube because it's also got through the paper and everything. So they're pretty concealable. You just stick them in your pocket, or you just stuff them. You can put them in your shoes if you have to hide them. Like they're not difficult to conceal. As for convenience. They're very convenient. Now, the reason I didn't give them a 10 for convenience, because I'm sure a lot of you would probably give them a 10, is because this is assuming that you're rolling it yourself. I think that you should. I really recommend that you roll joints yourself, because buying pre-rolls from the dispensary, usually when you buy a pre-roll, you get their shake, you get their shit weed. You don't get the good stuff. So, like, that's the reason why fucking white runts is like $20 a gram when you buy 8ths, but you can buy a 1 gram pre-roll for $10 because they give you the shake. So it's just not good. You should roll your own shit, but at the same time, like you could get joint roll, like little like raw branded joint roller machines. They're like $10 or whatever. Like it's not expensive. They're not, and it's also fun. It's fun to roll a joint once you get pretty good at it. So I give them an 8 for convenience. As for efficiency, yeah, they get a 4 because like your weed's always burning. You're gonna miss some stuff's gonna burn off. You're just not gonna be able to smoke all your weed like you would out of a bong. You'd be able to smoke more weed out of a bong because you don't have it constantly burning and shit like that. So all in all, joints get 37. Again, that's a pretty good score. They're really good in some areas and not very good in others, similar to the bong. Moving on, we got blunts. Now, I know I'm going to catch some heat for this because I'm about to slander blunts. And I got to come clean. I've never smoked a blunt before. I've never smoked tobacco before. That's just not really something that I feel any need to do. But I have been in the presence of quite a few blunts being smoked. And let me tell you, they're stinky. But we'll get to that. Potency, again, like I said, I haven't smoked one, so you should take this with a grain of salt. I gave it a 6 because people say that they hit harder than joints. I don't really believe them, because I mean, you've got the nicotine mixed in there, so I think you're really just getting part of the nicotine high, along with the weed high. But like I said, I never smoked a blunt. I've never even smoked nicotine, so I have no idea. I'm just gonna take their word for it and give it a 6, but I think that that's even a little bit generous, probably. Though again, I'm not sure. As for discreetness, yeah, fat 0. This is the fucking smelliest way you can possibly consume cannabis. Like, blunts fucking stink. The thick ass paper, leaf, whatever, if you're rolling a backwood. Like, this shit just stinks. And you try and pack a bunch of weed in there because it's a fucking blunt, so it's gonna smell like and it's gonna smell on you afterwards, even worse than a joint. Like, your hands are gonna reek, your breath is gonna reek, your clothes are gonna reek. Especially if you like smoked it in a car, forget about it. Like, you can't talk to somebody that you don't want knowing you smoked weed for like the next fucking 12 hours. It's crazy. Blunt's get a fucking 0. As for cost, I get an 8. They're not as good as joints because like you still have to buy the fucking swishers or backwoods or whatever. Like, swishers are really cheap, backwoods are still pretty cheap, but they're not near. Like, you get joint papers, you get fucking 50 for $1, and with blunts, if you buy swishers, you get like 2 for $1.50 or whatever the fuck it is. It's just so much. It's not expensive, but like, comparatively speaking, joints are so cheap that it's like they seem expensive, but they still get an 8. As for concealability, they're a little bit bigger than joints, so I think I docked them a point there, but they're still like easily concealable, and you stuff them in the tubes, stuff it in your pocket, whatever. It's not really a problem to conceal them. Convenience, I gave them a 4, and that's similar to why joints didn't get a 10. It's just because you have to roll it, and you might be wondering like why it's so much lower than rolling a joint, and I mean that's because you gotta fucking break it open. The papers don't come open. You gotta fucking open it yourself. You gotta dump out all the tobacco, and then you gotta fill it, and then you gotta roll it. And I mean, I know, I've heard, I haven't smoked them, so I haven't rolled one myself, but I hear that rolling a swisher at least is easier than rolling a joint. Backwoods, I know, can be pretty tricky though, especially because like half of them come fucking broken already. But yeah, no, it's just not. It's more of a process. It's quite a bit of a process. So I think it deserves a 4. As for efficiency, yeah, no, it's a 3. Like, it's probably the least efficient way to smoke weed. I mean, it'll be similar with joints, right? Like, if you rolled a joint as fucking fat as you would roll a blunt, it would have worse efficiency too. But I'm talking like on average, blunts are just gonna have the worst efficiency because it's just a lot of weed, and it's just going to be burning up. You can't smoke all that shit, and so much of it is burning at the same time that every time you're not dragging on it, there's just more weed burning, and it's not efficient. It's not efficient. I mean, so in total they get a 28. Like, that's really low, and I feel I think it's kind of stacked against them here. Like, blunts have that X factor. Like, they got the clout score. Like, if you're posting weed on the gram, you're either posting it rolled up in a backwood, or like some fucking crazy ass heady glass that you probably don't have because that shit's crazy expensive. So like the clout value is high for blunts, but that's not really something that I'm taking into factor here. So blunts get a 28. Cry about it. All right, hand pipes. So hand pipes, like, they got a really good score here, and I think that it is deserved, because hand pipes, they're not fucking amazing at anything, but they're not bad at anything either. Like, they're just all around good. And the potency, like, they get a 6, and you might be wondering, like, isn't it similar to bongs because you're smoking it out of a bowl, right? Well, the thing is, pipes, dry pipes are a lot harsher than a bong, especially like a full-size bong, like I was saying. They're a lot harsher, so you can't take as big a hit, so you can't burn as much weed. I mean, unless you're like fucking Iron Lung Supreme, but it's not gonna happen. So the potency isn't gonna be there. That's how you get higher, by the way. Tip trick: smoking fewer puffs, take bigger fucking hits. You'll get higher, and you just can't take those giant hits out of a hand pipe. It's just too harsh. Discreetness, same thing as a bong, basically. If you really know what you're doing, you can mask the smell decently well. But you're still smoking flower, so it's going to get a 5. As for cost, it gets a 7 because hand pipes are usually pretty fucking cheap. Like, I'm not talking one hitters. One hitters are like $5, but don't smoke out of one hitters. They fucking blow. Like, get a real pipe for like $30. It's not expensive. And I mean, you could just break that shit up with your fingers. And that's all you need is you just need a pipe and a lighter. That's it. You're looking at like $32. Like, that's pretty cool. And that shit'll last too. You know, it's not like papers where you use it once and you're done. And you're also not smoking a paper, so there's another plus. But for concealability, like, they're pretty small, so they're easy to conceal. But the reason that I docked to some points is because, like, if somebody finds it, they know exactly what the fuck it is. Like, you unless you have like some crazy heady shit that like looks insane, you are not able to fucking pull off convincing somebody that it isn't a pipe. And I mean, if you're in the position where you would have to convince somebody that it isn't a pipe, you probably don't have the money to afford the crazy heady shit anyways. So, like, yeah, it's small and it's easy to conceal, but like, if it gets found, you're fucked. And, you know, from experience and knowing shit that's happened to my friends, parents are a lot more upset about finding fucking pipes than they are about finding a joint, let me tell you. But as for convenience, yeah, I guess an 8. I mean, it's kind of a pain to clean, but if you get like a decent or like a simple one, I don't like complicated hand pipes because it just makes them harder to clean. I don't like complicated flower pieces. I'll go for like a recycler if it's a dab rig, but you know, with flower stuff, it's all about how difficult is it to clean. And if you get a good, solid, simple pipe, like, they're really not that bad to clean. If it's a small one, you could just literally put it in a Ziploc bag with some isopropyl alcohol and salt and shake it around for a few minutes, and it's perfectly clean. And I mean, yeah, it's like, in terms of smoking it, it's only a little bit less convenient than a joint. Like, it's still just a little thing that fits in your hand. You can throw it in your pocket. It's nice. And for efficiency, it also gets an 8 because it's just, it's up there with bongs. You don't get, I'm not giving it like a 10 like a bong, like I said, because you can't really take off the full bowl in one hit nearly as easily. Like, you're gonna burn off a little bit, you're gonna suck a little bit through. That's just the way it goes. I find it's worse with pipes than with bongs, so I docked at a point. All in all, it gets 40, which is a good score. Like, that's a really good score. But like I said, hand pipes are kind of like a good all-arounder. They're really nobody's first choice, to be honest. And it's because they're just consistently slightly above average. Like, they're not great, they're not bad. They're solid. Moving on to bubblers here. Now, okay, I don't like bubblers, and the thing that separates it from me between a bubbler and just like a small bong is, does it have a removable bowl? And if it has a removable bowl, then I'm calling it a bong. Like, bubblers are just pipes that have water percolation, and like, for potency, I'm giving them a 7. Yeah, what did I give a hand pipe? 6. Yeah, that makes sense. Potency, I gave them a 7 because, I mean, you can take bigger hits than a hand pipe because you've got that water percolation, but it's so little percolation. Like, it's so little. The water has like so little time to cool off the smoke and make it smoother that it's only a little bit better than a pipe. It's not nearly as good as a bong. And I mean, you just can't take as big a hits as with a bong. A little bit bigger than a hand pipe, but it's, you know, it's really not all that much. And discreteness, I mean, it's the same shit as all the other flower pieces. You know, it's all right if you really know what you're doing. Cost, they're more expensive than pipes, like normal dry pipes, not by a whole lot. Like, you could get a decent bubbler for like $50 probably. They're not crazy expensive. And as for concealability, they're just a little bit worse than hand pipes, I would say. They're a similar size, maybe a little bit bigger. But, I mean, they're still pretty concealable. And you might have a better chance of convincing somebody that it's something else because they look fucking weird. And convenience, I had to give it a 4 because they're a pain in the ass to clean. You got to fill them with water, and you got to deal with the water. Like, you got to figure out how, like, look at this shit on the right. Like, this is what most bubblers kind of look like. And it's like, how do you dump that bowl without dumping all the water? It's a process, and cleaning them is a pain in the ass. They're just not convenient to smoke out of, in my opinion. But for efficiency, like, they get a 9. They're similar to bongs like that, where you can get pretty much everything. You might suck a little bit through, but they're pretty efficient. So overall, I got a 37. I think that's a fair score. I do think that they're worse than hand pipes because, I mean, they're basically a hand pipe where you're trading quite a bit of convenience for the ability to take slightly bigger hits. Really, I think that you should just go for a bong. But yeah, so moving on, we got edibles now. Okay. you might look at this chart and be like, okay, hold on. Like, why are edibles off the fucking charts? Now, edibles are fucking awesome, but they have some serious downsides that we'll get into. And I think, again, this is like a problem with this list, similar to blunts, where this criteria was stacked against blunts and is sort of stacked in the favor of edibles. And I kind of had to take some points away, even though, edibles are hella convenient. Like, that could easily be a 10. But I had to take points away somewhere for the downsides that I'll get into. But first off, potency, yeah. No, like, it's a 10. And, like, you will get fucking stoned out of your mind on edibles. It's a different high because when THC gets digested through your liver, it actually changes into something else that is more psychoactive than normal Delta-9 THC when you smoke it. And also, it's just like, yeah, you just get fucking stoned. It's awesome. Discreetness, easy 10. I mean, most edibles don't even smell like weed at all. Like, you can stick your nose in a bag of gummies and a lot of them don't smell like weed at all. Like, they taste like weed, but that's fine because, I mean, ideally the person's not going to be fucking, the person that you don't want to know is not going to be tasting them. Cost, they get a 7 because edibles are a little bit expensive. But and I know some of you guys are saying, like, hey, I'm a fucking hardcore stoner and it takes 200 milligrams of fucking THC to make me high. And, 100 milligram packets are $20 each. Like, how I'm not going to spend $40 every time I want to get high. Well, let me tell you, if you've never heard of Rick Simpson oil, look it up, because if you're a hardcore stoner, you got to get into that shit. It's sold as a concentrate, so it doesn't apply the same rules as edibles do. Like, you could get much higher dosages there, and it's like 20, for me at least, in Western Washington, I could get a syringe of Rick Simmons oil, 1 gram syringe, for like $30, and that has like 700 milligrams of THC in it, and you just squeeze it into some pills, or you put it on some food or whatever the fuck you want, and you just eat it. So they are actually cost effective if you go for the Rick Simpson oil, though I don't recommend that for beginners. I don't recommend edibles at all for like first time consumers, because they can usually they can go way too hard. I'm just putting it out there. And I know most adults who are trying cannabis for the first time as an adult choose edibles because they don't want to smoke something, they don't want to inhale something. But I really advise you to not try edibles, because that can take you too far very easily. But yeah, concealability, easy 10. I mean, you just put them in a drawer, and they're small. Nobody's gonna fucking know what it is. And even if they find it, it's just gummies. It's just chocolate. It's just whatever, dude. Like, it's not fucking weird to have candy in your drawer. Like, literally, you can get edibles. A lot of edibles are made to look like other candies. Like, they make hella edibles that look like Starburst. Just buy a pack of Starburst and fill it with your edibles, and nobody will fucking know, even if they find it. Super concealable. Now, convenience, yeah, I gave them a 0 because, they're super convenient to, like, you can just pop one, no problem. However, it takes a long time to kick in. Like, you're looking at least 30 minutes up to like 2 hours for you to even feel the effects, and they're pretty inconsistent with how you feel the effects. Like, sometimes you'll take an edible, and even if it's the same dosage, even if it's like a normal 10 milligram, you'll take an edible and you'll feel like, 3 out of 10, you're just kind of buzzed for a while. And then sometimes you'll take an edible and you're just absolutely fucking sent. It's just difficult to gauge. So they're almost marketed towards beginners. And I think that's like so fucking stupid, because people are going to get too high and just get turned off of it. Like, I really think these are more of an experienced stoner's way to get high. But yes, and it's difficult to like redose with edibles for the same reason. Like, you shouldn't take any more edibles for like 3 hours after you take the first one, just to wait and to make sure that it fully hits you before you take any more. And by the time you take any more, it's going to be another, up to 2 hours before you even feel your second edible. So it's just a pain in the ass. But when it works out, like, boy does it work out. As for efficiency, yeah, I mean, it's a 10. You're fucking eating the weed. Like, you're not gonna waste any. You're fucking eating it. It's awesome. And I mean, even if you want to make your own fucking edibles, like, you go to the dispensary, buy an ounce of shake, and make a fucking plate of, I'm not gonna go super deep into it, but you make your can of butter and you make a fucking tray of brownies. And like, if you know what you're doing, if you could get all of that THC extracted, that fucking that bunch of brownies is going to get you so much higher than if you rolled the fucking ounce into a few blunts and faced it. Like, that tray of brownies can last you fucking 2 weeks of being stoned off your ass. It's awesome. Yeah, edibles are great. They get a 47. I think that's pretty high. Like I said, this list is sort of stacked in their favor, and their downsides really can't be properly accounted for in this criteria, but they are really good as long as you are experienced and you know what you're getting into. Now, e-rigs, this is a really good one. E-rigs, I think that these are the best for medical marijuana patients because of the convenience, the potency. Like, a potency first of all, it gets a 10 in potency, like, easily. I mean, it's a form of dabbing, and dabbing will get you high off your ass for hours off of one hit. It's fucking awesome. So yeah, potency, easy 10. Discreetness, it's a 9. Dabbing, it's a vapor. It's not, you're not combusting anything, so it doesn't stink nearly as bad as as smoke. Like, you can hit this in your fucking room, and as long as you got the windows open, whatever, like, the smell will be gone in 20 minutes. Even if you're smoking if you're dabbing on some fire rosin, like, the smell will be gone in 20 minutes. It's awesome. Cost, however, these things are like fucking $400 for like a good one, like a Puffco Peak Pro. Those things are expensive. The cheaper e-rigs just they're not the same. They're not as good. You got to get a nice one, and they're fucking expensive. You'll pay for it. Now, concealability, it gets a 7. Some of you might be surprised because they're not, the smallest thing. They're not easy to just stuff somewhere. But I mean, look at this thing. You can probably, if it gets found by somebody who doesn't use cannabis, there's a good chance you could convince them that it's something else. Like, you could probably convince them it's a fucking essential oil diffuser or some shit like that. Like, you can come up with something. So it gets a 7. Convenience, like, this thing is hella convenient, and I know any of you who have one might be saying, like, why aren't you giving it a 10? And again, it goes back to me being a clean freak, and the bowls on these things, the fucking ceramic crucible, whatever the fuck they call it, it is not that easy to clean. It almost feels a little like, it just feels like the weed gets stuck into it, and you really have to mop it up, and even still, you're not going to get all of it. It's just kind of a pain in the butt to clean. But for efficiency, it does get a 10, because you can smoke all of that fucking oil, especially with the electronic, where it keeps that applied heat. You can smoke all of it, no problem. So yeah, it gets a 10 easily for efficiency, for a total of 44. And I mean, that's a high score, but e-rigs are fucking awesome. They're not my personal favorite way to smoke, and we'll get there eventually, but I mean, like I said, I really think these are the best for patients or people using cannabis strictly for medicinal reasons, because of, like, you get totally medicated in one hit. You're good for the whole afternoon. Maybe you take a second one before falling asleep, whatever. But you're just instantly there after one hit. They're really expensive, and that's pretty much the only downside. So moving on to vaporizers now. All right. I don't like vaporizers. It feels like they don't hit, to be honest. And I mean, this is not including the Volcano. I haven't tried the Volcano. It's fucking expensive. I'd like to, but to be honest, I don't really see it being much better than normal vaporizers, although everybody says it is, so I'm just excluding it. I'm talking about, like, normal vaporizers like you see in this photo that are like something that fits in your hand. And now look, potency, yeah, I'm giving it a 4, because they don't hit, man. I'm serious. Like, you could put a third of a gram in one of these things, and you'll vaporize it, in however many puffs. And like, yeah, you'll feel buzzed, but if you put that third of a gram in a fucking bong and you kill that bowl in one hit, you're gonna be way more stoned than if you spent like 10 minutes vaporizing it or whatever. It just does not hit me. And then you have to fucking, this goes into the convenience, and why the convenience I gave it a 3, because that's also going to upset people. But like, you fucking vaporize your weed, and then you open it up and you got like this brown ass weed that is like used up, and now you have to figure out what you're going to do with it. Like, if you burn it, then like, all right, it's burnt, it's gone. But like, when you vaporize it, you got this brown fucking weed that you don't really want to smoke, because like most of the THC, not all of it, of course, which is also why it just gets an 8 for efficiency, but most of the good shit is gone. You just got this weed. It still stinks. You can't just like throw it in your trash can if you've got other people that live with you that you don't want them to know. Like, it's just a pain in the ass. You have to figure out what you're going to do with it. And discreetness, I mean, it is very discreet. Vapor doesn't smell nearly as bad as smoke, and it dissipates very quickly. So it does get an 8 in that. Cost, these things aren't super expensive. I mean, the Volcano is, like I said, I'm not counting the Volcano here. These things aren't crazy expensive, but you shouldn't get the super cheap ones. Like, you could get ones that are like $40, and you shouldn't. Like, I wouldn't trust that, and I don't think you should either. But like the halfway decent, like the ones that are like around $80-$100, that's not that bad. But they're just not good. They're hella concealable though. Like, I'll give them that. They're not very big. They're harder to like hide because they're bigger than most like pipes and shit. But they get a 9 because like somebody who doesn't smoke weed is gonna have no fucking idea what this thing is. Like, look at this thing on the picture. Look at the one on the left. Like, if you didn't smoke weed, you would not fucking think that like, what the fuck is that, right? Like, you could tell them that's anything. You say it's like a power bank for your phone. Like, you could say it's anything and probably get away with it. So easy to conceal because like nobody who doesn't smoke weed is gonna know what the fuck that is. Like, we already talked about the convenience. I already ranted on that, and I touched on the efficiency. But overall, yeah, vaporizers get a 36. Really not something I'm into. I know some people really like them, but they just don't do it for me. Moving on, we got carts. Okay, carts. First of all, I know some of you guys are going to say, potency 3? What the fuck do you mean? My cart is 89, 98 fucking percent THC. What do you mean it's got no potency? What I mean is, like, it will take you fucking 30 rips off a cart to get to the same amount of high as you would get by, like, taking one decent dab. Like, these things, you just have to sip on it constantly. And you're inhaling so much THC, and it's like in little tiny gradual increments that, like, yeah, you're high for a long time, but you've just fucking taken so much THC that, and you don't even feel nearly as high as if you took it all at once in a dab. And it just annihilates your tolerance because they're so convenient. And that's almost a downside. They're so convenient, it's almost a downside that you're using it constantly. And you're just going to destroy your tolerance. But yeah, no, potency, I'm giving it a 3, even though they're like 90 fucking whatever percent THC. And like, on top of that, usually the distillate that they put in there, the fucking actual concentrate in there, is the most mids concentrate that they fucking have. Like, it is some straight poop concentrate in there. Like, any of the good shit, they're just gonna sell as a dab. Like, they don't put the good shit in carts. Trust me. I don't care that your cart costs $80 fucking dollars, dude. There is some garbage in there. Unless you're like buying rosin carts, but like at that point, like, why? Just get a fucking rig. Carts suck. But they have some serious fucking bonuses. Potency, but yeah, no, potency, I'm giving it a 3. And I know some of you are saying like, oh, I take 2 hits on my cart and I'm fucking zooted. It's like, you're probably just you probably haven't smoked that much weed, and like, that's fine. I think that carts are amazing for beginners. I think they're the best way for a first time user to get high. But for people who are more experienced, not really my favorite. But they are very discreet. Like I said, most of the fucking concentrate in these pens is shit anyways, so it's not gonna smell like anything. It's probably just gonna smell like whatever artificial fucking blackberry whatever they put in there. So yeah, no, it's a 10, and people are just gonna think, again, like, if it's a inexpensive cart that just fucking smells and tastes like berries and candy, people are just gonna think it's nicotine anyways. So you could smoke that shit in public. As for the price, I give it a 2. And it's not like they're super expensive, but like a battery is at least $30. Like you should be probably spending a little bit more than that though. Like the picture here, this is a vessel expedition, and these are like $80. That's a little bit pricey, but they're not the cheapest. And the carts themselves, like every time you buy a gram of concentrate, you have to buy the fucking cart device that comes with it, or it like, and that just adds to the price. That's just making your shit more expensive. And like I said, usually the prices that you pay don't at all reflect the quality of the fucking of the concentrate that's in the pen. Like you could spend, at least in Western Washington, I go to the dispensary and spend $50 on a live resin cart, a 1 gram live resin cart that like is good. It's good. But if I took that $50, I could buy some fucking amazing, some fire solventless ice hash rosin. Like there's just the most, usually I like, if I will go to buy some fucking fire rosin, I'll spend like $40 a gram here in Western Washington. Like that's cheaper than like a cart of like all right live resin, like not even solventless. So they're just not cost effective. And concealability, I mean, it's a 10. Like they're small, usually smaller than a hand pipe. And it's also that thing where people aren't really going to know what the fuck it is. They're probably just going to think, if they recognize it, they're probably going to think it's a nicotine vape anyways. So very concealable, extremely convenient. So convenient, like I said earlier, it's almost a downside because of how often you're going to be ripping this thing. But yeah, no, like you just have this on your desk, and then at any point just press a button and you're fucking smoking. So very convenient. And efficiency, I gave him an 8. You might be wondering why it's not a 10. It's because like it's difficult. Like the cartridge itself isn't always great at being able to smoke all of it that's in there. You're gonna have a little bit left over by the time the cart's killed, and sometimes like if you have a really powerful battery, you can overheat it and like you'll ruin some. So it's just not, it's not the most efficient. It's not inefficient, but it's not like incredible. All right, so yeah, that's cartridges. They get a 43. Like that's a high score. Like I feel it's a high score because like they've got a lot going for them. They are really convenient. They're really discreet. They're really concealable. But for experienced users, the potency isn't there, at least not for me, and they're just not cost effective. Like you could get so much better concentrate for so much less money if you're just willing to step on up to a fucking dab rig. So dab rigs, my personal favorite way to consume cannabis. They're very polarizing. They're either really, really good at something or they're really bad. Like a potency, it's a 10, easily, all day. It's a fucking dab. Like how's a dab not gonna be a 10? Even fucking mega stoners can get blasted off of one dab as long as it's big enough. It's still just one dab though. So you're just sent immediately. It's awesome. Discreetness though, it gets a 7. Like the e-rig, it doesn't smell that bad, but like assuming you've got a torch like this, we're not talking about e-nails, we're talking about the classic fucking banger and torch. Like if you got the torch out, like people can hear that shit. Unless you get like an adjustable one and you put on the lowest setting, then it still maybe can be heard in like the next room over. But really, like these things are not the most discreet. They're not terrible. Like they don't stink. That's the big thing, is they don't stink that bad. If you're dabbing on some serious fire, like it can smell, but like the smell will still dissipate really quickly, much quicker than if you were smoking flower. So the screen it gets a 7. Cost, yeah. Now this is where the dab rigs kind of suffer. There's a few places where dab rigs suffer, but the cost really, you're looking at, it's a similar price for a bong as a bong. Like you're looking at like $70 to $100 for a decent one. And that's just one element of it, though. You also need a banger. You need a dab tool. You need a carb cap. You need a fucking blowtorch. Like you need a lot of stuff. You need to buy a lot. And I mean, you really want like some isopropyl alcohol and some Q-tips, just some ways to clean it. It's a lot. There's a lot that you need. So it's not the most cost effective, though. Once you have everything, like almost everything is obviously like it'll last forever as long as you don't break it, other than obviously like your isopropyl alcohol and shit. But like, you know, your rig's gonna last unless you break it. So it's like it's an investment. It's a big investment up front, but you get a lot of life out of them. Concealability, yeah, it gets a 2 because like there's a lot of pieces. Like I said, there's a lot of pieces that you have to find places for. And if somebody finds this, you're not going to convince them that it is something. You might not even be able to convince them that it's for smoking weed. Like, if it's somebody who finds this and they don't know what the fuck it is, they might think you're smoking meth out of it. I mean, it looks like some crackhead shit. You've got a little fucking bucket and a blowtorch. Like, dude, you're fucked. Like, they're not concealable. Really, you shouldn't be using one of these unless you're in a place where it's not a big deal if you get found out, right? Like, you're either living on your own or your roommates, whoever you're living with, is, you know, chill and is fine. Because, yeah, no, you don't want to get caught with this. And it's pretty easy to get caught with this. Convenience, it gets a 5. It should probably be lower. Because there's a lot of steps, and I mean, you got to clean it every time. You should clean it every time. I mean, I spend like, because again, I'm a freak, I spend like 3 to 5 minutes cleaning my fucking banger in between every dab. And there's a lot of setup. You got to pull out the torch, the timers, you know, maybe you got a thermometer or whatever. It's a lot of stuff, but the thing is, it's fun. It's fun though. So maybe it's me being biased, but like, it's kind of a party. You know, you pull out the torch, you pull out the rig. Everybody knows that it's about to get fucking lit, dude. Like, dabs, everybody's excited for dabs, dude. So, and it's just a good time. It's just fun. So that's why I'm giving it a 5. Probably a little bit biased, but as for your efficiency, yeah, it's a 10. Like, you can fucking vaporize all your shit. You know, maybe you gotta reheat, you gotta heat it up a little bit too hot. Like, normally when you take a dab, you're gonna have a little puddle of some shit left over that I usually just mop up. But if you really want to conserve, you can burn that shit. It's probably not gonna taste good, but you can. So yeah, it gets a 10 for efficiency. Overall score of 36. Like, that seems pretty low, but like I said, dab rigs are super polarizing. Like, personally, they're my favorite, and a lot of stoners. It's a lot of stoners' favorite way to consume cannabis. So really, you just have to have the pros line up with the pros that you're looking for, and the cons line up for the cons that you're not really looking for, or that you're not really worried about. And then dab rigs are fucking perfect. But yeah, overall, here's the overall scores again. And I mean, as you can see, the things that are kind of all around good, like hand pipes, fucking edibles, e-rigs, and carts, sort of get the most points, just because they're the most well-rounded. But, you know, take a look at every category, decide, you know, which ones you think are the most important, and see what kind of method you think is going to work for you. And thanks for watching. I've been the Scientific Stoner, and I'll see you next time.